The rain fell in heavy sheets across the quiet suburban streets as the evening sky grew darker. Streetlights flickered on one by one, casting long shadows on the wet pavement. After finishing a 12-hour shift at Children's Hope Hospital, Thomas rubbed his tired eyes and turned up the radio. The soothing jazz melody helped ease the tension from a particularly difficult day in the pediatric ward. As a nurse with over 15 years of experience, Andre had seen a lot, but watching children suffer never got easier. He was looking forward to getting home, warming up some leftover stew, and calling his mother for their daily chat. That was their tradition. No matter how busy life got, they always found time to check in with each other. His windshield wipers worked overtime against the downpour as he navigated the familiar roads leading to his neighborhood. That's when he spotted her, a small figure hunched against the rain, stumbling along the roadside. Andre slowed his blue sedan, squinting through the rain-streaked window. It was a child, a young girl, completely soaked and obviously distressed. Without hesitation, he pulled over about 20 feet ahead of her and put on his hazard lights. His nurse's instincts kicked in immediately as he worried about hypothermia in this weather. Rolling down his passenger window, Andre called out gently, "Hey there! Are you okay? Do you need some help?" He was careful to keep a respectful distance, knowing how frightening it might be for a child to be approached by a stranger. The girl, no more than 8 or 9 years old with blonde hair now plastered to her face from the rain, looked up with red-rimmed eyes. She hesitated, clearly remembering warnings about talking to strangers. Andre understood her caution. He reached slowly into his pocket and pulled out his hospital ID badge, holding it up so she could see it clearly through the window. "My name is Andre. I'm a nurse at Children's Hope. I work with kids just like you every day. Are you lost? It's not safe to be out here alone in this storm." "I missed my bus," the girl said, her voice barely audible above the drumming rain. "I was at my friend's house for a study group and I lost track of time and now I don't know how to get home." Her lower lip trembled as she hugged herself against the cold. "What's your name?" Andre asked, keeping his tone warm and reassuring, the same voice he used with scared children at the hospital. "Lily," she replied after a moment's hesitation. "Lily Parker." "Well, Lily, I'd be happy to give you a ride home if you'd like, or we could find somewhere dry to wait and call your parents. Do you know their phone number?" Lily nodded, relieved. "My mom's at work, but my dad should be home by now. I know my address." "That's great," Andre said with an encouraging smile. "Listen, I understand if you're nervous about getting in a car with someone you don't know. That's actually really smart of you to be careful. How about this? You can use my phone to call your dad first and tell him what's happening. That way he'll know you're safe." Lily seemed to consider this, rain dripping from her chin as she weighed her options. Finally, practicality won out over fear. "Okay," she nodded, "but my dad's number is saved in my backpack." She pointed to her soaked pink backpack. Andre stepped out of his car, opened an umbrella and approached slowly, making sure to stay where passing cars could clearly see them both. He held the umbrella over Lily as she fumbled with cold fingers to retrieve a small notebook with emergency contacts. A few minutes later, Andre had reached Lily's father, explained the situation, and gotten permission to drive her home. Mr. Parker was grateful, explaining he'd been working late and hadn't realized Lily would be coming home early from her friend's house. He gave Andre their address just about 10 minutes away. As they drove through the winding streets of Oak Hill subdivision, Andre kept the conversation light, asking about school and her favorite subjects, making sure Lily felt comfortable. She gradually relaxed, explaining how she loved science class and wanted to be a veterinarian someday. "That's a wonderful goal," Andre said warmly. "You know, I wanted to be a firefighter when I was your age, but then my little cousin got really sick and I spent a lot of time visiting him in the hospital. That's when I decided I wanted to be a nurse instead." What neither of them noticed was Mrs. Henderson, a relatively new resident to the neighborhood, driving past them at the four-way stop. She glanced over, saw a young white girl she vaguely recognized from community picnics sitting in a car with a black man she didn't know. Instead of continuing on her way, she slowed down, made a U-turn, and began following them at a distance. Inside her car, Mrs. Henderson's mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. She hadn't seen the earlier interaction. She hadn't witnessed Andre showing his ID or making the phone call to Lily's father. All she saw was a stranger with a child who appeared upset, the tears from the rain and cold mistaken for distress of another kind. "Do you live around here?" Lily asked Andre as they turned onto Maple Street. "Not too far," he replied. "I'm over in Westview Gardens, about 15 minutes from here. My dad's a teacher at Westview High School. Maybe you know him? Mr. Parker. He teaches history." Andre smiled at the coincidence. "I don't think I've met him, but that's pretty cool. Small world, right?" As they approached Lily's house, neither of them was aware of the chain of events already in motion. Mrs. Henderson had pulled over 3 blocks back and made a call, not to the local police non-emergency line, but to 911, her voice urgent, as she reported what she described as a suspicious man with a child who seems distressed. She emphasized that she didn't recognize him from the neighborhood, and that the child was white while the man was black, details that unfortunately colored the response to come. Andre pulled into the driveway of the address Lily had directed him to, a modest 2-story home with bikes on the front lawn and wind chimes tinkling on the porch. "Here we are, safe and sound," he said cheerfully, relieved to have helped the child get home safely. "Let's get you inside where it's dry." Just as Andre turned off the engine, he noticed headlights behind him. Not just one car, but 3, their blue and red lights suddenly flashing in his rearview mirror. His stomach dropped as he realized what this might look like to others who hadn't witnessed the full situation. "Why are the police here?" Lily asked, confused and a little frightened by the sudden commotion. Andre took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly as he placed them carefully on the steering wheel, where they would be visible. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," he said quietly, trying to keep his voice steady for Lily's sake. "But don't worry. Your dad knows you're with me, and we haven't done anything wrong. Everything will be okay." But as officers approached the vehicle with hands on their weapons, Andre wasn't entirely convinced of his own words. In trying to help a child in need, he'd walked straight into a nightmare that was only beginning to unfold. "Step out of the vehicle with your hands where we can see them." The officer's voice boomed through a megaphone, startling both Andre and Lily. 3 police cars had formed a semicircle behind Andre's sedan, their headlights blazing through the rain, casting long shadows across the driveway. Andre's heart hammered in his chest. He'd seen enough news stories to understand the danger of his situation. "Lily," he said calmly, though his mouth had gone dry, "I need you to stay very still, okay? I'm going to do what the officers say." "But why are they yelling?" Lily's voice quivered. "We didn't do anything wrong." "I know, sweetheart, there's just been a mix-up. Your dad knows you're with me, remember? Everything will be fine." Andre wasn't sure if he was reassuring Lily or himself. Moving with deliberate slowness, Andre raised his hands and called out the window. "I'm a nurse. I was just giving this child a ride home after she missed her bus. Her father knows I'm bringing her home." "Exit the vehicle now," came the reply, unyielding. "I'm opening my door very slowly," Andre announced, keeping his movements telegraphed. Rain immediately soaked his scrubs as he stepped out, hands raised high above his head. The officers approached cautiously, weapons not drawn, but hands resting on holsters. "Mr. Andre didn't do anything." Lily suddenly burst out of the passenger side, ignoring Andre's plea to stay in the car. "He's a nurse. He showed me his badge. He called my daddy." One of the officers, a woman with a tight bun visible beneath her cap, moved toward Lily while 2 male officers approached Andre. "Come over here, honey," she said to Lily, her tone gentler than her colleagues. "Check my front pocket," Andre said steadily. "My hospital ID is there, and my phone has a call log to her father from 15 minutes ago." The front door of the house flew open, and a man in his 40s came running out. "Lily," he shouted, splashing through puddles in his house slippers. "Daddy." Lily broke away from the female officer and ran to her father. "Sir, please stay back," one of the officers called out. "This is my house. That's my daughter." Mr. Parker gathered Lily into his arms. "What's going on here?" Despite this development, one of the officers was already placing handcuffs on Andre. "We received a report of a possible abduction in progress," the officer explained. Abduction? Mr. Parker looked bewildered. No, this gentleman called me. He was bringing Lily home because she missed her bus. I spoke to him on the phone and gave him our address. By now, neighbors had begun to gather on their porches and lawns despite the rain. Smartphone cameras recorded the scene from multiple angles. Mrs. Henderson, who had made the 911 call, stood across the street, her expression shifting from certainty to confusion. "Take the cuffs off him," Mr. Parker demanded, his arm still around Lily's shoulders. "This is ridiculous. He was helping my daughter." The officers exchanged glances. The senior officer, a sergeant with graying temples, hesitated before nodding to his colleague. "Let's sort this out." But the damage was already spreading beyond the physical scene. 3 houses down, Brenda Wilson was already uploading a shaky video to her neighborhood watch page with the caption, "Police arrest man with child in our neighborhood." She hadn't bothered to get any facts before posting. As the handcuffs were removed, Andre rubbed his wrists, his professional composure finally cracking. "I was just trying to help," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't leave her in the rain." "I'm so sorry about this," Mr. Parker said, approaching Andre with an outstretched hand. "Thank you for helping Lily. This is absolutely unacceptable." He turned to the officers. "I want your badge numbers, all of you." The sergeant stepped forward. "Sir, we were responding to a report of a possible child abduction. We have to take those calls seriously. And did you ask any questions before surrounding this man's car? Did you consider that there might be an explanation?" Inside the house, once statements had been taken and the officers had left, Mr. Parker insisted that Andre come in to dry off and have some hot coffee. Lily had been sent to change into dry clothes and was now sitting wrapped in a blanket still, sniffling occasionally from the ordeal. "I'm Kevin Parker," Lily's father said, offering his hand again. "I can't thank you enough for helping Lily, and I can't apologize enough for what just happened." Andre accepted the handshake. "Andre Thomas, and please don't apologize, you didn't do this." "No, but someone in this neighborhood did." Kevin's jaw tightened. "And I intend to find out who." Little did they know that the incident was already spiraling across social media. The partial videos showing Andre in handcuffs next to a police car, with a crying white child in the background, were being shared without context. Local news had picked up the story with the headline, "Man detained after incident with child in Oak Hill neighborhood." Andre's phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a text from his friend David. "Dude, is this you on the Oak Hill community page? What's going on?" Andre opened the link with trembling fingers. There he was, hands behind his back, the image grainy but his face recognizable. The comments below were already filling with speculation and judgment, many leaping to the worst possible conclusions. "I need to call my mother," Andre said suddenly, standing up. "And probably my supervisor at the hospital. This is going to be bad." Kevin put a hand on his shoulder. "We'll fix this. Lily and I will tell everyone what really happened." But both men knew that first impressions spread faster than corrections. By morning, thousands would have seen the video and formed opinions without knowing how Andre had carefully shown his ID, called ahead, and done everything right. When Andre finally got home 3 hours later, there were 5 messages on his answering machine. The first was from the hospital's HR department asking him to come in early tomorrow for a meeting. The second was from his mother. Her voice worried sick after a neighbor called her about seeing Andre on the news. The third was from a reporter seeking comment. The fourth and fifth were hang-ups, but he could hear angry breathing before the click. Andre sat in his dark living room, still in his damp scrubs, wondering how an act of kindness could have gone so terribly wrong. Outside, the rain had finally stopped, but the storm in Andre's life was just beginning. The fluorescent lights of the police station buzzed overhead as Detective Olivia Chen reviewed the case file that had landed on her desk, first thing in the morning. An experienced investigator with 12 years on the force, she had developed a reputation for thoroughness and fairness. Glancing at the clock, 7:30 a.m., she took another sip of her coffee and studied the preliminary report from last night's incident. Something didn't add up. The responding officer's statements described a suspicious individual with a minor based on a concerned citizen's 911 call. but the follow-up notes indicated the child's father had confirmed knowing about the ride home. Detective Chen frowned. In her experience, jumping to conclusions rarely served the truth. "I need to speak with the child," she said to her partner, Detective Ray Wilson, "and I want the full 911 call recording." Across town, Andre sat stiffly in an uncomfortable chair outside the hospital administrator's office. Despite having slept only 3 hours, he'd arrived early, dressed in his most professional attire, navy slacks, a light blue button-down shirt, and a tie his mother had given him last Christmas. He'd fielded 17 text messages from concerned colleagues who had seen various versions of last night's events online. "Mr. Thomas, Ms. Patel will see you now," the receptionist said, her expression carefully neutral. Hospital Administrator Deepa Patel didn't waste time on pleasantries. "Andre, I'm sure you understand why we've called you in. Several patients' families have contacted us with concerns after seeing posts about your incident last night." Andre's throat tightened. "Ms. Patel, I was helping a lost child get home. Safely. I followed every protocol. I identified myself as a healthcare worker, called her parent first, and..." Ms. Patel held up her hand. "I understand that's your version of events. However, until this matter is fully resolved, we feel it's best if you take a leave of absence. Paid, of course." "But I didn't do anything wrong," Andre protested, leaning forward. "I've worked here for 15 years. My record is spotless." "This isn't about your work performance, Andre. It's about public perception and patient comfort." Her expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry, but my hands are tied until this blows over." Walking out of the hospital that had been his second home for 15 years, Andre felt as if the ground beneath his feet had suddenly disappeared. His phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. After a moment's hesitation, he answered. "Mr. Thomas, this is Detective Chen from the Oak Hill Police Department. I'd like to speak with you about last night's events." Back at the Parker household, Detective Chen sat across from 9-year-old Lily in the family's sunny kitchen. Kevin Parker stood nearby, arms crossed protectively. "Lily, can you tell me exactly what happened yesterday?" Detective Chen asked gently. "Take your time." Lily's account was clear and consistent. She described missing her bus, trying to walk home in the rain, and how Andre had stopped to help her. She emphasized how he'd shown her his hospital badge and called her dad before driving her home. "He was really nice," Lily said firmly. "He told me about how he takes care of sick kids at the hospital. He didn't do anything bad." Detective Chen nodded, making notes. "And you never felt scared or uncomfortable?" "Only when the police came," Lily replied with the unfiltered honesty of a child. "That's when I got really scared." Next, Detective Chen played the 911 call recording. Mrs. Henderson's voice filled the room. "There's a black man in a blue car with a little white girl from the neighborhood. She looks upset. I don't recognize him. I think something's wrong." "Did she even stop to ask what was happening?" Kevin Parker demanded, his face flushed with anger. "Did she see Andre helping my daughter out of the rain? Did she notice him calling me? This is outrageous." "Unfortunately, Mr. Parker, people often see what they expect to see," Detective Chen replied quietly. "But our job is to find the truth, not just respond to fears." By afternoon, Detective Chen had pieced together a clearer picture. Traffic camera footage confirmed Lily walking alone in the rain before Andre's car stopped. Hospital records verified his identity and spotless employment history. Most importantly, phone records showed the 4-minute call to Kevin Parker's number before Andre had driven Lily home. At 3:15 p.m., Andre sat across from Detective Chen in an interview room, not the interrogation room, a distinction that wasn't lost on him. "Mr. Thomas, I've reviewed all the evidence, including my interview with Lily Parker this morning," Detective Chen began. "I want to apologize for how this situation was handled." Andre exhaled slowly. "Thank you. But an apology doesn't fix what's happening to my reputation. I've been placed on leave from my job. My mother received threatening phone calls last night, and someone spray-painted a horrible word on my garage door." Detective Chen's expression darkened. "We'll address the vandalism and threats immediately. As for the rest, She slid a document across the table. This is an official statement clearing you of any wrongdoing. I've also spoken with the district attorney, who agrees there was never any case here. You were simply a good Samaritan. And what about the person who called 911? Andre asked. What happens to them? Making a 911 call in good faith, even if misguided, isn't a crime, Detective Chen admitted. But I'll be having a serious conversation with her about the real harm caused by jumping to conclusions. When Andre returned home, he found his mother scrubbing at the garage door, trying to remove the hateful graffiti. Despite his insistence that she should have waited for him, she shook her head stubbornly. I raised you to help people in need, she said, her hands red from the harsh cleaning solution. I won't let anyone make you ashamed of doing the right thing. His phone rang again. Kevin Parker. Andre, we're going public with the truth, Kevin said without preamble. I've arranged a press conference for tomorrow morning. The local news. Stations will be there. Lily wants to speak too. She's pretty determined to set the record straight. I don't know, Kevin. Will that make things better or just drag it out longer? These false accusations spread like wildfire through social media, Kevin replied firmly. The truth deserves the same platform. My daughter was helped by a caring professional who did everything right, and instead of thanks, you've received nothing but punishment. That's not the lesson I want Lily to learn about our community. After hanging up, Andre noticed an email from Ms. Patel requesting a meeting tomorrow afternoon. The subject line read, Reconsideration of leave status. Perhaps the tide was beginning to turn. Detective Chen, meanwhile, knocked on the door of a well-kept colonial home. Mrs. Henderson answered, her confident expression faltering when she recognized the detective. Mrs. Henderson, we need to discuss the consequences of your call last night, Detective Chen said evenly. While you may have believed you were helping, I need you to understand exactly what your assumptions have cost. An innocent man. Camera lights flashed as Kevin Parker approached the podium set up outside the Oak Hill Community Center. The local media had arrived in full force, drawn by the controversial nature of the story that had exploded across social media. Behind him stood his daughter Lily, looking small but determined in a yellow dress, and Andre, who had hesitated until the last minute about whether to attend. Good morning, Kevin began, his teacher's voice projecting clearly. 2 days ago, my daughter Lily missed her school bus and was walking home alone in the rain. Mr. Andre Thomas, a pediatric nurse at Children's Hope Hospital, stopped to help her. He showed her his ID, called me for permission, and drove her safely home. Kevin paused, his expression hardening. For this act of kindness, Mr. Thomas was handcuffed in my driveway, has received threats, had his home vandalized, and was temporarily suspended from the job he has performed excellently for 15 years. Reporters called out questions, but Kevin raised his hand. Before I take any questions, my daughter would like to say something. Lily stepped forward, standing on tiptoe to reach the microphone. Several people in the crowd smiled at the sight, but her face remained serious beyond her years. Mr. Andre helped me when I was scared and wet and cold, she said, her clear voice carrying across the crowd. He was really nice and told me about being a nurse and how he helps kids who are sick. He called my dad first to make sure it was okay. He didn't do anything wrong. Her voice trembled slightly, but she continued. Some people were mean to him just because he looks different than me, and that's not fair. He's a good person. As Lily stepped back, Andre found himself blinking back tears. Detective Chen, standing at the edge of the crowd, nodded approvingly at the child's simple honesty. Kevin returned to the microphone. As a teacher, I try to show my students that character matters more than appearance. As a father, I want my daughter to grow up in a community where kindness is rewarded, not punished. And as a neighbor, I'm deeply disappointed in whoever made assumptions that led to this injustice. A reporter raised her hand. Mr. Parker, there are rumors that the 911 caller specifically mentioned race in her report. Can you comment on that? Kevin glanced at Detective Chen, who gave a small nod. Yes, the caller specifically noted that a black man was with a white child. I believe that observation colored the entire response that followed. Andre finally stepped to the microphone, his voice steady despite his nerves. I've spent my career helping children of all backgrounds. When I saw a child in trouble, I didn't see color. I saw someone who needed help. I followed every safety protocol because I understand parents' concerns about strangers. What hurts most isn't the misunderstanding itself, but how quickly people assumed the worst about me. As the press conference continued, Mrs. Henderson watched the live broadcast on her living room television, her face flushed with shame. Detective Chen's visit the previous day had been uncomfortable, to say the least. The detective had shown her the evidence piece by piece. The phone records, the traffic camera footage, Lily's statement, dismantling her assumptions methodically. If you had simply rolled down your window and asked if everything was okay, this entire situation could have been avoided, Detective Chen had told her. Instead, your assumptions have caused real harm to a person who was doing exactly what we should want community members to do, help a child in need. Now, watching Andre speak with dignity despite everything he'd endured, Mrs. Henderson felt the full weight of what she'd done. Her phone rang, her sister calling for the third time since the story broke. Have you seen the news? Her sister asked without preamble. Isn't that the same neighborhood where you— Yes, Mrs. Henderson cut her off. It was me. I made the call. The silence on the other end was deafening. At Children's Hope Hospital, Administrator Patel was having a similar realization as she watched the press conference on her office computer. When Andre finished speaking, she immediately picked up her phone. Linda, cancel my afternoon appointments, she said, and please ask Dr. Wright to join me when Mr. Thomas arrives for his meeting. After the press conference, Andre felt emotionally drained but somehow lighter. The truth was finally out there, though whether it would travel as far as the original accusations remained to be seen. As people began to disperse, Detective Chen approached him. That took courage, she said, offering her hand. We filed a report on the vandalism at your home, and patrol cars will be keeping an eye on your street for a few days. Thank you, Andre replied, shaking her hand. For everything. Lily suddenly darted forward and wrapped her arms around Andre's waist in a quick hug before running back to her father. The simple gesture of trust and affection from the child meant more to him than any official statement. That afternoon, Andre sat once again in Administrator Patel's office, but the atmosphere felt markedly different. Dr. Wright, the chief of pediatrics and Andre's direct supervisor, was also present. First, Administrator Patel began, I owe you an apology. Our response was reactive rather than thoughtful, and for that I am truly sorry. Andre nodded, accepting but not diminishing the apology. Second, she continued, your leave is officially ended, effective immediately. Your record will show no interruption in service. Thank you, Andre said simply. Dr. Wright leaned forward. We'd like to go further than that, Andre. The pediatric department has been discussing creating a community outreach coordinator position for some time. In light of recent events, we believe you would be the perfect candidate, if you're interested. Andre blinked in surprise. Community outreach? Educational programs in schools, community centers, churches, wherever children and families gather, Dr. Wright explained. Teaching safety, basic health, when to seek medical care, building trust. Between the hospital and all parts of our community, he smiled slightly. With a significant pay increase, of course. For the first time in days, Andre felt a genuine smile spread across his face. I'd be honored to consider it. As he left the hospital, a place he could still rightfully call his workplace, his phone buzzed with a text from Kevin. Local news running full story at 6, the tide is turning. On his drive home, Andre noticed that someone had painted over the hateful graffiti on his garage door with a simple message. A hero lives here. He didn't know which neighbor had done it, but in that moment his faith in community began to slowly rebuild. 3 weeks had passed since the incident, and life in Oak Hill was settling into a new normal. The morning sun filtered through the blinds as Andre reviewed his notes for today's presentation at Westview Elementary School, his 4th school visit since starting his new role as community outreach coordinator. The position had turned out to be even more rewarding than he'd anticipated, allowing him to connect with children outside the hospital setting and teach them about health and safety. His phone chimed with a text from Kevin Parker. "Just a reminder, dinner, at our place tonight at 7. Lily made you a thank you card and won't stop asking when you're coming." Andre smiled as he texted back a confirmation. In the strangest of ways, a friendship had formed from the ashes of that terrible misunderstanding. Kevin had become one of his strongest advocates, speaking out whenever the incident was mentioned in community meetings. The doorbell rang, and Andre opened it to find Detective Chen on his porch holding a folder. "Good morning, Mr. Thomas. Do you have a minute?" Over coffee at his kitchen table, Detective Chen shared the results of the police department's internal review. "2 officers have been suspended for procedural violations during your detention," she explained. "More importantly, the department is implementing new training protocols on bias awareness and proper response procedures." She looked him in the eye. "It doesn't undo what happened to you, but it might prevent someone else from going through the same thing." Andre nodded thoughtfully. "That's something, at least." "There's one more thing," Detective Chen added, sliding a business card across the table. "The police chief would like you to consider joining our community advisory board. Your perspective would be valuable." After Detective Chen left, Andre headed to his mother's house. Since the incident, their Sunday breakfast had become even more sacred. His mother opened the door before he could knock, as if she'd been watching for him. "There's my boy," she said, pulling him into a hug that smelled of cinnamon and coffee. "Come see what came in the mail." On her kitchen table lay a stack of letters, dozens of them, from families of children Andre had cared for over the years. The hospital had established an email address for people to send messages of support, and the response had been overwhelming. "This one's my favorite," his mother said, handing him a crayon drawing from a former patient showing a stick figure in blue scrubs with a huge smile. The wobbly handwriting read, "Nurse Andre helped me when I was sick and scared. He is a hero." Andre swallowed hard. "I didn't expect all this." "Well, you should have," his mother replied firmly. 15 years of kindness doesn't get erased by one person's mistake." Across town, Mrs. Henderson sat in her real estate office, staring at her computer screen. The listings she usually managed had dwindled as clients quietly took their business elsewhere. The local news coverage had never mentioned her by name, but in a close-knit community like Oak Hill, word had spread about who made the 911 call. Her office phone rang, the 3rd call this week from her regional manager. "Barbara, we need to discuss your numbers for this quarter," the manager began without preamble. "I know they're down," Mrs. Henderson admitted. "It's been a difficult month." "It's more than the numbers," her manager continued. "We've received complaints about your judgment from several clients. Our company can't afford to be associated with what happened." The manager paused. "We're going to need you to take a leave of absence while we reassess your position." After hanging up, Mrs. Henderson sat in stunned silence. Her hasty judgment had cost a good man his reputation, and now it was costing her career. The karma that everyone had whispered about was finally hitting home. That evening, Andre arrived at the Parker home to find not just Kevin and Lily waiting, but several other families from the neighborhood as well. "Surprise," Lily called out, running to greet him. "We're having a thank you party." Kevin approached with a glass of lemonade. "Hope you don't mind the ambush. Some neighbors wanted to meet you properly." Among the guests, Andre recognized several faces from the crowd at the press conference. One elderly man approached him with an outstretched hand. "Mr. Thomas, I'm Richard Wilson. I live 3 doors down from you." The man seemed nervous but determined. "I want to apologize. I was one of the people who shared that video online before, knowing the facts. It was wrong of me, and I'm truly sorry." Throughout the evening, Andre received similar apologies from neighbors who had jumped to conclusions. It didn't erase what had happened, but each conversation felt like another small repair to the community fabric that had been torn. As the evening wound down, Lily tugged on Andre's sleeve. "Can I show you something? It's for school." She led him to the dining room table where a poster board displayed her project titled Community Heroes. Front and center was a photo of Andre in his nurse's scrubs alongside pictures of firefighters, teachers, and other healthcare workers. "It's for our Heroes' Day next week," Lily explained proudly. "I told my whole class about you. My teacher said you could come and talk about being a nurse if you want to." Before Andre could respond, Kevin joined them. "Actually, it's already arranged with your boss. Your first official school visit as community outreach coordinator will be Lily's class next Tuesday." He smiled. "If that's okay with you?" "I'd be honored," Andre replied, genuinely moved. 6 months later, Andre stood at a podium in City Hall, accepting the Citizen of the Year award. The journey from being handcuffed in a driveway to being celebrated by the same community had been remarkable. His new outreach program had expanded to 10 schools, with plans for a summer camp program for underprivileged children interested in healthcare careers. As he looked out at the audience, he saw his mother beaming with pride, Kevin and Lily Parker giving him thumbs up, and even Detective Chen nodding approvingly from the back row. "When I stopped to help a child that rainy evening, I never imagined where it would lead," Andre began. "What happened afterward could have left me bitter and mistrustful. Instead, it revealed something important: how quickly fear can override our better nature, but also how powerfully truth can heal." He paused, looking around the room. "We all make mistakes. What matters is what we learn from them. This community has shown that it's brave enough to face uncomfortable truths and grow from them. That's why I'm proud to call Oak Hill my home." Mrs. Henderson wasn't at the ceremony. She had moved to another state to restart her career, but before leaving, she had sent Andre a simple card with one sentence: "I was wrong, and I'm sorry." It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. A small acknowledgement that sometimes karma's greatest gift is the chance to learn and do better. As Andre drove home that night, past the streets where his nightmare had begun, he realized that the true measure of justice wasn't in punishment but in transformation, of a community, of perspectives, and most importantly, of hearts.